So we're going to be talking about the nation of domination. As you can tell, I've got a new microphone. So sometimes I won't be holding it, sometimes I will be holding it. Depends on how close I am to the computer. Just thought it was easier than holding that tiny thing. And I'm charged all the time. But today we're going to talk about the nation of domination. Then I want to show you some of my new Funky Pops. You see, I've got loads more today. Loads more. It cost me a lot of money for those, but I'll show you at the end. So the nation of domination is what we're going to be doing today. I just thought, because I've done a couple single superstars, I'm going to do a team instead today. So, the nation of domination was an American-Canadian professional wrestling stable who competed in the WWF from November 17th, 1996 to 28th November 1998. The group was formed by newcomer Faarooq. In 1996, remained an influential faction in the company, while in the group, The Rock was a one-time Intercontinental Champion, D'Lo Brown was a two-time European Champion. At the end of the nation's existence, the group was joined by Owen Hart. Now we're going to get into the concept, then the history of them, and then the aftermath, and then the reunions. So that's basically like the fallout of like what's going to happen in this video today. So yeah. So the concept of this group was that they were based loosely on the Nation of Islam, their street gang lifestyle, with group members adopting Islamic names and wearing Muslim headgear, and the Black Panther Party. The extremism of the group's pro-black theme often including the nation salute, and Faarooq's angry tirades on the microphone garnered them an excessive amount of heat in the fans in the arenas. Right, so in history we're going to start out with the formation of the Nation of Domination. So on the October 28th, 1996 edition of Monday Night Raw, announced Jim Ross revealed that Faarooq had taken Clarence Mason as his new manager after Ross recommended Mason's services for a lawsuit against Ahmed Johnson. Ross knew that the duo would appear on WWF Livewire that Saturday with big changes in store for Faarooq, meaning the dropping of his Roman gladiator gimmick. The Nation of Domination heel faction would make its debut in Survivor Series, where Faarooq would be accompanied by the ring by Mason and PG-13. The four men were also accompanied by three actors, Albert Armstrong, Charles Hines and Richard Beach, whose names were unacknowledged on screen and were supposed to represent the other members of the nation. Faarooq would team with Vader, Fake Diesel and Fake Rose Ramon on a 4-on-4 Survivor Series elimination match against Flash Funk, Jimmy Snuka, Savio Vega and Yokozuna, where it ended in a no contest. Many wrestlers joined the heel stable over time, including Crush, D'Lo Brown, Savio Vega. Their first feud was with Ahmed Johnson. Faarooq lost, who had a rivalry with Faarooq since SummerSlam at the Royal Rumble. The nation insisted Faarooq join his match against Johnson. Faarooq lost by disqualification after Crush interfered and tacked Johnson. Faarooq, Crush and Vega were members of the Nation of Domination who wrestled while others supported them during the matches. These three men often teamed up in a 6-man tag matches such as one in Your House 13 Final Four against Bart Gunn, Goldust and Flash Funk, and most notably in Chicago Street Fight at WrestleMania 13 against the Legion of Doom and Ahmed Johnson. At a cold day in hell, the nation faced Johnson in a gauntlet match. Johnson defeated Crush and Vega in a gauntlet before losing to Faarooq. The next night on Raw, JC Ice and Wolfie D would be removed from the nation after the loss to the Legion of Doom, and the nation effectively abandoned them to their fate. So after losing JC Ice and Wolfie D, Faarooq began challenging The Undertaker for the WWF Championship at King of the Ring. After Faarooq lost the match, he blamed Crush and Vega for the loss. Next night on Raw, Faarooq went to the ring with only Mason, Brown and 3 bodyguards, and announced that due to too much arguing in the group, he fired Crush and Vega. He then fired Mason and the bodyguards for not getting involved in their matches. In reality, Clarence Mason requested to be taken out of the group because he's feeling uncomfortable with the Nation of Domination storyline, with Faarooq using racing comments in promos. The other reason was because WWF owner Vince McMahon wanted more managers to start taking more bumps and get involved in the matches. Now I'm going to get into the Black Supremacy and the Gang Wars. In 1997 to 1998, so on June 16th episode of Royal War, Faarooq promised that he would deliver a bigger, badder, better and blacker version of the nation. This led to the induction of Karma Mustafa, Ahmed Johnson to the group after Johnson turned on WWF champion The Undertaker during a tag match against Faarooq and Karma. Johnson would be forced out of the group due to a legit injury. He was replaced by Rocky Maivia. Meanwhile, former Nation members Vega and Crush formed their own rival faction, Los Boricua, I think, which was made up of Puerto Rican wrestlers, and the Disciples of the Apocalypse, made up entirely white biker wrestlers, respectively. This led to the WWF style of a gang war. In the following months, the nation feuded with Los Boricuas and Disciples of Apocalypse. This feud culminated in a triple threat match between Faarooq, Vega and Crush, who were the leaders of Nation, Los Boricuas and DOA, at Ground Zero, which Vega won. They restarted the feud with the Legion of Doom, whom the nation defeated at Bad Blood in Your House in a 3-on-2 handicap match as part of the heel turn. Rocky Maivia shortened and changed his ring name to The Rock. Around this time, Ahmed Johnson restarted the feud with the nation, as well as joined the Legion of Doom and Ken Shamrock. This led to a Survivor Series match at Survivor Series, which the nation lost to the Legion of Doom, Johnson and Shamrock. At Degeneration in Your House, The Rock got a shot at the Intercontinental Championship against Steve Austin. In the closing minutes of the match, Austin performed the Stone Cold Stunner on the referee, and a second referee would come down for the pin for Austin, although the first referee intended to disqualify Austin. As a result of the controversy, Austin was forced to defend the title against The Rock the next night on the Raw as War. The Rock was awarded the Intercontinental Championship. However, after Austin forfeited him the title instead of defending the title in a rematch, delivering a stunner to The Rock and took the championship belt back. Afterwards, Austin appeared the next week on Raw, taunting The Rock and eventually throwing the Intercontinental Championship over a bridge into a river. Ken Shamrock, who already rivaled with the nation, began feuding with The Rock for the championship. And then Mark Henry turned heel and joined the nation by assaulting tag team partner Ken Shamrock in a tag match against The Rock and D.O. Brown. We're going to get into the leadership of The Rock in 1998. So on a March 30th episode of Raw in 1998, the night after WrestleMania, The Rock went on to usurp the leadership of the nation from Faarooq, at which point the group permanently dropped the domination from its name and its main focus. Instead, The Rock's gimmick spread throughout the faction, and with the nation members taking on considerably more hip characters, the most notable being Karma Mustafa transforming into the Godfather, D.O. Brown's bobblehead, and Strut, and a new hit version of the group's entrance theme that would be associated with The Rock's character and be remixed over and over again during the years and become his current theme. The nation's primary focus was by now was The Rock's retain his Intercontinental title and by any means necessary, which was the group motto. They mainly feuded with Faarooq, who was just being kicked out of the stable at Mayhem in Manchester. The Rock and D.O. Brown lost to Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart at Unforgiven in Your House. The nation lost to Shamrock, Faarooq and Steve Blackman in a 6-tag match. And then The Rock and Mark Henry faced Shamrock and Hart in a tag match that saw Hart attacking Shamrock and join the nation. The group then engaged with rivalry Degeneration X, which was infamous for a parody DX performed, in which they spoofed the nation members. The Rock thoroughly humiliated China by eluding the possible romantic encounter between the two, while the rest of the DX were held at bay in the locker room by a forklift. A street fight between the two groups would wound up in Triple H being in particular singled out by the rest of the group and being beaten down with the ladder. After Southern Justice interfered with the match on the nation's behalf, the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship between the two at SummerSlam, and X-Pac and Brown trading back and forth the European Championship. The Nation and DX, who wrestled in the 6-man tag match at Over in Your House, which the Nation won. Now we're going to get into the fall of the nation. So towards the end of the year, the group showed signs of dissension as The Rock's mannerism and swagger began to catch on with fans. This would lead to the WWF to turn The Rock face. Hart left the group when he injured Dan Severn following the botch reverse power driver in Raw War the night after breakdown. The incident was a mimicry of legit incident with Hart and mimicry. What did I say? Mimicry? Mimicry. That's how you say it. Not mimicry. Mimicry. I don't know what's going on with me then. So yeah, that was like to mimic the incident which Hart injured the Stone Cold Steve Austin used in the same move earlier that year. The guilt from the injury to Severn led Hart to retire, but then resurfaced as the Blue Blazer, effectively ending the affiliation with the Nation. The Godfather would venture out on his own as a fan favourite, bringing him a bevy of beauties to the ring before his match with any wrestler. The Rock would later be assaulted by Baron Henry in October 1998, which would ultimately end the Nation as a faction after kicking Godfather out the group on an episode of Something That Heat before it be... Judgment Day in your house. Baron Henry briefly continues in the Nation name. Modified Titantron and the music dropping all three by the end of the year and moving on to tag team division without the Nation moniker. So now we're going to get into the aftermath. So shortly after the Nation was disbanded, The Rock decided to run solo, riding his immense rise to popularity. He won the WWF Championship at Survivor Series. He turned heel again by joining Vince McMahon's Corporation faction. Then he would subsequently enjoy several years of success, not just in the world of wrestling, but in Hollywood. Owen Hart would go on to be in a tag team with Jeff Jarrett and later revive the Blue Blazer character for his death in 1999. D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry will remain a tag team following the dissolution of the Nation, enjoying moderate success after Brown attempted to help Henry lose weight. Henry turned on Brown in the summer of 1999, ending the remnants of the Nation domination. Brown was eventually held both the Intercontinental and European titles at the height of his popularity. Henry would go from a sexual chocolate character, one be awarded the European Championship by Jeff Jarrett later that year. Henry would also go on to win the ECW World Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship later in his career. The Nation had something of a reunion in late 1999 when D'Lo realigned himself with the Godfather, thus ending the maintaining his pimping gimmick. This lasted all the way to the early 2000s when D'Lo turned on the Godfather, ending this tag team. And then the Godfather would later win the Intercontinental and World Tag Team Championships in the following years. The former leader Faarooq would find success with Bradshaw as the APA. The APA would later win the tag titles 3 times before disbanding in 2004. As of now, The Rock, Faarooq and Godfather are the only 4 members still employed by WWE. The Rock is signed to part-time basis, while being one of the highest paid movie actors in the world. Faarooq makes occasional appearances under his real name, Ron Simmons, since his retirement in 2004. And The Godfather was released in 2002 and retired and manages a gentleman's club. He occasionally makes guest appearances in WWE. Brown was released by WWE in 2003 and rehired in 2008. He also was let go once again the following year. Faarooq, Godfather and Henry were all inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2012, 2016 and 2018 respectively. Now we're going to get to the reunion. So at Qatar Pro Wrestling announced on April 26, 2021 that Henry, Brown and Godfather and Faarooq were reprising their roles in Nation Domination and upcoming QPR Super Slam 3 in Doha on February 26, 2022 as a special guest. This would be the first reunion in 22 years. So we're going to get into the people who so yeah, we're going to get into the people who were in it, how long they were in it for now. So that's what we're going to do, yeah. there's not much else, just going to be basically how long people were in the stable for. So I'm going to start with Faarooq. Faarooq was from November 17th, 1996 to March 30th, 1998. Clarence Mason only lasted like a bit under a year. From November 17th, 96 to June 9th, 97. JC Ice, November 17th, 96 to May 12th, 97. The same with Wolfie. Crush, same as Clarence Mason, where he lasted, but he started after Mason, so he just started in December of 96 and left in June 9th, 97. And Dealer joined January 4th, 97 and left November 28th, 98. Savio Vega, January 25th, 97 till June 9th, 1997. And then The Godfather, June 16th, 97 to October 18th, 98. Ahmed Johnson, June 16th, 97 to August 4th, 97. The Rock, August 11th, 97 to October 12th, 98. Mark Henry, January 12th, 98 to November 28th, 98. Owen Hart, April 27th, 98 to October 5th, 98. So I just thought I'd do a quick kind of like video on just the stable, because I did a couple of superstars. I was going to think of doing the Wyatt family, but I might do that as like kind of like a different kind of video, because I want to do, before I do the Wyatt family, is do Eric Rowan and Braun Strowman as singles, and then I go into doing a video about them and then make a playlist of the Wyatt family and all the members in it. If I do that about every single one I've done, you know, because I might actually do it where, because I've done the New Day and I've done Kofi Kingston. I don't know if I've done like Xavier and Biggie, and I might make a playlist about that. But so yeah, this is going to be the main video I'm going to put on, and then I'm going to put a short on about the, and actually about what's back there as well, like the new little pops I've got, Funko Pops. So I'm going to do a short about them, because I'll quickly show you the one I really like, right? Actually, I might add it on to the end of this video. So yeah, I've got new ones. So I've got like the Charlotte Flair, the blue one. Don't know if you can see that. And I've got Tiffany. Stacey Keebler, Tiffany, Xavier Woods, X-Pac, Penta, and that Bray Wyatt one, which is my favourite. And then I've also got that one down there. Don't know if you see it. But that one, the last one I was showing you, was a present from my friend. Got that for my Christmas present. But yeah, so I was going to draw on that, but I thought might as well show you what I've got. But yeah, if comment who your favourite nation member was, and then I'm thinking of maybe doing a couple more Braun Strowman and Eric Rowan, then doing a playlist on the Bray Wyatt, on like the Wyatt family. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video.